All right, good morning. So yesterday I got around to doing the washing down and pressure washing. I cleaned out all the bottom here. So I had some other stuff I had to take care of um, before I could get to it. So it was late in the evening, so I wasn't able to do a little video afterwards. But we got her all sprayed down with some degreaser that I had showed you in the previous episode. And I did pull a lot of this out. One of the things that I realized when I was in the middle of doing this, and I should have dawned on me, but they're actually the plate that goes over this. You can see it bolts in here to here, and it goes over the back, and it protects all that hoses and stuff. So I don't know why I'd totally missed that it had one on there, but it does. So generally, got it a lot cleaner in here. There is still some debris back in there. It's really hard to get in there. I'm going to go ahead and pull this fuel tank so I can get back behind there. There's a lot of stuff behind there. It's kind of an opening. You can see I kind of got in there, but I'm going to pull the fuel tank out and just get all that stuff out of there because I don't want it to rust any of this plate here. This plate does come out, but I just want to make sure I get all the stuff out. Why not do it right? So, I do have a lot more stuff to do today, and it's going to be draining that fuel again and then pulling it out. So generally what I'm going to do is we're just going to go over the general cleaning. How it looks now is it's a lot cleaner looking in here. The outside of the machine actually looks a lot better just generally. Now there's still some more. You can see some little flakes of dirt that just had come down from the top when I was up there pressure washing. You can see a little bit up there, but a lot of it came down pretty clean. Got a lot of the growth off, and you can actually see, so the machine has a lot of UV degradation, which you're going to see a lot on the base. You could tell a little bit of the color difference there. Maybe I can get an angle where you can see that it actually has some shine left in that paint. But when you start looking on the base, we're going to start realizing there's a lot of UV degradation down here. The paint's just worn off, and it's really flat in color. And you can even see some footprints in here. What that's from, I don't know. That may have been even from the factory when they were painting the machine and went from primer and they stepped on it to go up before they were doing the top coat, and it just left a little bit of residue from their boots on there. And then when they wiped it down and it was still there, they painted over it, and it just doesn't allow the paint to fully adhere there really well. So it may be that, or it may be just worn off from the UV degradation. You go to step on it and it just comes right off. But so the machine, the boom came out a lot cleaner, as you can see. There's a lot of rust here on this edge. It's not scaling too bad, but I am gonna clean this out and wire wheel it and reprime that, especially like in these spots here. This is on a doubler plate, so I'm not too concerned, but I don't want this to continue. And it's just gonna do the spots on this boom, and these are all happen to be right on that doubler plate, which is a good thing. A lot of this is just surface on the weld there, so we'll get that taken care of. What do you expect for a machine that's 20 years old and sat for about 10 years from further communication with where I had gotten it from, and it kind of goes in line with the service on the machine, looking on the hours and whatnot. So a lot of this came out clean. And this paint is actually in really good shape on this piece on the top, but that would be kind of expected. When we get closer up here, you can actually see that it does actually have still a bit of a shine to it. But again, that's kind of expected whenever it's up in that area. But as you see, the machine came out a lot cleaner everywhere. You can see there's still rust on the rims. But they did come out a lot cleaner. The machine in general is a lot cleaner. So I'm gonna consider painting it later, but at this point in time, I'm gonna focus on getting it mechanically sound, fix the leaks. As you can see, it's still pouring down, so my suspicion is that there is a swivel inside right in there is probably leaking, and the oil that you see dripping there is from this cylinder right there, which is a lockout cylinder, which keeps your machine level when you're in the machine. It actually holds the constant pressure to hold the machine level. So anyway, we'll get up here. I did do a lot of just wrenching down up here. I didn't get too much. It's a lot of electrical components on the outside, and I don't want to pressure wash too much into it. You'll see this still looks wet because that was from whenever I was dealing with the fuel issue. But generally a lot cleaner, and every time I go in there and mess with these motors, these pressure hoses here, whew, definitely going to be on the list. That'll be fixed pretty quick. I'm probably going to get those made up shortly and get those replaced. That's definitely a concern. That's going to be a lot of oil volume flowing out if that burst on me. So pressure lines, suction lines in the back on the other side of this pump here. Those are suctions, as you see on the green. It says back there, mega vac. So that's going to be your suction lines where it's suction into the pump. And then but these guys here definitely need to get taken care of. Other than that, she runs really smooth now, but I'm going to go ahead and take that fuel tank off and get clean behind it, and then once I get it cleaned and put back together, then we'll get up in here. We're going to lift the boom up, and I don't have a stand like they use at the maintenance and service centers. So I'm going to rest it on top of the boom of my excavator. So I'll set the excavator up, and I'm going to rest this on the boom of that. And we're going to do it in a manner to where the actual, if any hydraulics fail, there's not going to be any collapse. So the boom will be actually resting with the stick straight down, resting on the ground. So therefore it's supported by the ground instead of hydraulics. So if we don't have a hydraulic failure on my excavator boom sticking out, hanging in the air, it's not going to fall out from underneath me when I take this main boom cylinder off, which is going to be that pin right there. So once we get it up in horizontal level, that's going to drop that pin out. I'm going to unbolt that pin will slide out. We're going to use a drift, knock that pin out, and then we'll lower that cylinder, and it'll be in this position, and this boom will be up and out of the way, so I can actually get back into the master cylinder, which is pouring oil. So that one needs to be fixed. I did order those kits from JLG. Another thing to note is JLG provides open support for this equipment. I've been doing a lot of this stuff just from knowledge that I have of equipment and past experience working with them, but they do have manuals, service manuals, and parts manuals that you can get online openly. You don't have to pay for them. You don't have to buy them. They actually provide it openly, which is kind of a good thing, being that this is a man lift, and safety is, all these devices are built around safety. Examples of that, and I can show you real quick. When you look on a hydraulic cylinder that's double acting means you put fluid on this side, and there's a piston in here that sits about, this one is probably going to be somewhere in the middle because it's a steering cylinder. You put fluid on this side, it's going to push that cylinder this way, and that fluid's going to return on this side. Whenever you need to retract or pull the cylinder this way, fluid will come on this side, and it will push the back side of that cylinder this direction. And that cylinder is connected to the end of that piston. So as the fluid goes on one side or the other, it's going in and out. there's no other block valves on here, so this is not a safety device type cylinder. Now we'll come up here and we'll look in and we'll look at these lockout cylinders. This block here is a safety block device. Inside there is a series of safety valves, so if one of these hoses were to fail and blow out, it locks the fluid in that cylinder. The reason why is if this machine is sitting level and your boom is extended out and that thing blows out and you lose a hose and that thing fully collapses and drops down when you're extended out, could mean catastrophic failure, and the machine would lose balance and could possibly topple over. The other place you're going to see those cylinders are valves on cylinders is going to be on your main boom cylinder, which is going to be in the inside lifting up the boom. It's going to be on the telescoping cylinder, which is on the inside. It's going to be on your basket cylinder, which comes out the bottom of this jib right up in this area, and that actually keeps your basket level, because if a hose was to fail, the basket will drop like that and dump you out. So these cylinders are made with safety valves. I would assume that that's why they're more open about it, so that people can get to the proper tools and equipment and know how to provide proper service on these machines. And that's a good thing. JLG has been really good. I've seen about everything that they've labeled on this machine. When I've been ordering parts, I haven't looked at a manual. I just come in here and I look and I say, hey, let's look in here. That's the part number right there. If I wanted to order this wiring loom, I just go and look up that part number. Just type it in Google, wherever. The other part number, JLG. Everything on here has been labeled with a part number that I've seen. They also identify what this is. So if I had to take all these harnesses off, I know that this goes to the rotate switch on the basket. This one over here, come over here, and that says, hey, that's just start an auxiliary power switch. This one over here, etc., etc. They're all labeled, even on these lights back here, so we know what they're going to. I've had some alarms and I'm like, hey, what's this alarm go to? You go over there and you look, and every single one of them are labeled. JLG is done exceptional on their craftsmanship and quality on this equipment. I'll go into a little bit now since I'm even on it. My ADD kicking in again. I go all over the place. But since I'm here, I'm going to go over this part. So this was the wiring harness that the rats so love to get into, and they ate through pretty much every single wire that was in here. Now, I was out in the field. We're at the property. I haven't I did not heat shrink these back. These are water sealing. Because I wondered if I needed to start changing them. I didn't want them to have them all heat shrinked. So this wiring harness was not very visible. You can see all the ones that are completely red are ones I've changed. They didn't eat through. Some of them they kind of got through a little bit of the edge, and I just taped it, as you can see on that orange one right there. But what I want to get to is this. When you come over here and you start looking, you're going to see some of these are actually matching colors in pairs. It's kind of hard to see there. But there's actually numbers on these wires. They were very difficult to see inside this wiring loom in here. So I had to follow it back on both ends. If you come back in here and you can see, maybe this one, I think. Let's see, right there. There's a number right there. Not all of them were that visible, but I had to really look and look and look, because there may be two that same color pattern. So what I did is I matched them on this end and that end. Now I was able to come in and I knew which wiring harness it was. This is actually the harness they decided to eat through, was for the engine control. So I came in here, and as you can see, look, you can see right there, there's numbers on it. They did really good about this. So I was able to actually, and you see that they're actually pretty close. One like literally an inch apart. They weren't that visible where the rats ate through. So it was a challenge, but it took me some time and I got it. And then if I wasn't sure, I actually came through and used my test probe to make sure if I couldn't see it on this end of the loom that was eaten through. I used my test probe to match and say, yes, that is correct. So I was down to a 50-50 chance. I only had 2 that matched, right? So it's one or the other. If I could read one of them, I know I had to do is just find one of the 2. So that's what I did. Again, I had said in an earlier episode that is around $1,600 to $1,700 part just for that wiring harness. Now that wiring harness is going to come here, and it goes to the engine control, and it's going to include this piece where it goes to the switches in here, to the starts and the stops and the whatever that are tied into the engine. Most of it's going to come over here to this relays that you're going to see, because that's going to be part of this section. But anyways, that's all included on that harness. Again, I had said earlier I wasn't going to invest in it if the machine was not going to run, and it runs. So eventually at some point I will probably get to that, and that will probably be when I start replacing a lot of these hoses, because that wiring harness, as you see, goes back down, comes through, and it's way back down underneath a lot of these hydraulic hoses. So when I go to start pulling them out, I'm probably going to invest in that wiring loom and replace it to where it's back to 100% operational. In the future, if I was to ever sell the machine, that's something that somebody would look at and be like, hey, this looks like a patch job here. Well, yes, it is a patch job. It has a patch job on getting the machine operational for me. I'm going to locate this plate. I'll order it. It's like it's $250. Unfortunately, it's a lot of money for a plate of steel, but that's an important plate to have. As you can see, it's exposed right now, and if you're up in the air and you drop something and it lands on one of these hoses, it could be a bad day. You could down your machine while you're in the air from driving, and that wouldn't be good. So that's going to be the auxiliary power. Looks like a starter, but it's actually a motor, 12 volt. Powers that little pump there. It actually does work. It will bring you down out of the air. Anyway, I can go on and on. I'm a talker. I like to explain things in great detail. Some people just want to just land it. Well, I go in a lot of detail because there's a lot of intricacies about machines, things when they go together. I'm a little more gentle when I work on pieces of equipment, take my time, because if you damage something, it could mean a lot of money, especially when it comes into hydraulics. They are not cheap. You start getting into these valves here, this valve body, a lot of money. You get into this motor here, the brake system, swing brake, it's a lot of money. You start getting into your final drive, what we're going to call that, this guy right here, that's a motor. And then you got your planetary gear hub, which is going to be on the outside. This is where a lot of your money is at. Really expensive. Surprisingly, these cylinders, it's like $50 for that repair kit, seal kit from JLG. I think it was $80 for the one on the main boom, maybe a little more. I want to say it was like $60 for the master cylinder back there that I'm going to fix. They also have a seal kit for the cylinder there for the leveling one. That was about $70. The expensive one is actually for that rotator in there, for the rotate on the basket. That was about $160, but you're doubling the seals on it. It's like 2 pistons, because the way it functions, you have to have more seals for it to function the way that it's designed. It's very interesting. I looked in on the manual on that, because again, I can't remember the type of the gear design that is, but it's very interesting gear design. Anyway, cost of this machine new is about $125,000. If you were to buy it brand new, refurbed, probably about $80,000, I would guess. And that's when they take it in. You can watch videos on that. JLG actually has a video on their website that explains how they do it. They'll basically take everything all off, take the machine down to the turntable. They'll replace the bearings if they're needed, and everything, and sandblast it and repaint it. Anyway, this is actually going to be a really good machine for me. I've got a stone homestead here. My house is pretty tall. Got to pressure wash the roof for maintenance, to maintain warranty, and you know, a lot of trees trimming to go on. This is a 60-foot lift, so should reach everything that I need to do. They had an 86-footer they were willing to let me have, but that machine was about 37,000 pounds and probably about twice the size of this because it was a Grove. And it's built like their cranes, overbuilt. That thing was massive. Tires were massive. It had a crab walk steering system, twice the hydraulics. It had a jib on it. And then, of course, it had all steering on all four wheels. This one is a four-wheel drive as well, but that machine was just massive. I mean, you could put probably two of these bodies inside of that one, and it was only 26 foot more of lift. Grove overbuilt their man lifts. Pretty interesting machines. They had a lot more counterweight, built like a crane more than anything. Probably could use it as a crane if you wanted to, but anyway, they do have limit switches for how much weight you put on them, and they'll stall the machine out. Well, not stall it, but they will not let you function up. It will only let you go back in, retracting the boom and lowering the boom once it hits a limit. It's a safety thing, so it's got an overload in it. This one has a bulb in there for the basket being overloaded, so this one also has a sensor. Where it's at, I don't know. I'd have to look in the wiring diagram to locate where that sensor is, but I'm assuming that it either stays lit or somebody just removed the bulb or it went out and never got replaced, but we'll look into that. Other than that, all functions have worked on here other than the tilt on the basket due to that master cylinder in the back. I think it works in conjunction when you tilt the basket. And since the master cylinder is pouring like a sieve, the basket doesn't rotate because hydraulics is taking the path of least resistance. So anyways, that's a good I guess a synopsis of everything that's been happening, covering what I've been doing, cleaning, what's gonna happen. She looks pretty decent, but I will, like I said, take care of the boom, get it primed, and put some paint on that, on the rough spots. So that is all.